Welcome back everyone to more NASCAR Heat 5 here at Knee Gaming. Today's video is all about customization, and that means we're going to take a dive into my driver and my car. So let's go ahead and get started with the my driver. The my driver area gives us an opportunity to customize the look of our driver in game, and you're going to see the driver in game in places like the garage screen when you're working on a setup at the track, and also different areas around the track. Some of the camera shots that you get whenever you first load up the track will show your driver next to the car. So there are different areas within the game that we'll have an opportunity to see our driver, so it's worth taking some time to really mold our driver the way we see fit. And before we get into the presets, which are going to be our first opportunity to make some changes, let's actually go into the outfit options, which is the very last screen of this particular area, because it gives us an opportunity to see head to toe exactly what our driver looks like, and some options as far as the body type and the body size. So starting at the very beginning, we've got a few different options you can see as I'm scrolling through here, just depending on, again, what body type you want to have. And there are male and female options that we'll see here in just a moment with some of the presets as well. So keep that in mind as you're scrolling through some of these. And then the volume of the body. This has a lot to do with the muscle tone and size within the driver itself. And then we move on to the outfit. So several different styles here, as well as your choice of color. Here we see outfit with 3 main colors and a few different tiles as we scroll through. That one looks really nice. Some of them, of course, you can see based on more on stripes or pinstripes. Others are based more around the solid platform, like you see these last few, and then a camouflage thrown in just for good measure. We'll take it back to the very first one, since so far that's about my favorite. As far as colors go, we'll see these very same color palette whenever we get over to the car paint schemes as well, but you've got plenty to choose from here on the main screen, and then you can click on the very bottom selection to get even more color options if you need to get even more detailed and go into different shades of a particular color. So a lot to choose from there, and hopefully you can use this selection of colors to get exactly what you're looking for. Then at the very bottom, we have our choice of sponsors. For this guy, I have NASCAR Heat 5 all over him, as well as the Fanatic wheel set, which one of my favorite wheels that I hope to be able to own someday. So you've got a huge selection. We'll scroll down through some of these. Most of these are carryover from NASCAR Heat 4, but there are a few in here that I do not recognize from Heat 4, but that could simply be an oversight on my part. You see the NASCAR Heat Pro League at the very bottom. But then a lot of these are also a holdover. There's what we have available for the chest. You're going to have similar options on the right and left shoulder. And then same thing for the back. You've got largely the same options that we're used to, particularly whenever we get over to the cars. There's some new options available. All right, now let's move back over to the primary options, which would normally be where we would get started in selecting our driver with the preset. So by default, I am using the first preset, but let's go ahead and try to make that change. Do you want to make any changes? Yes, I do, which is, you can see, immediately going to reset. So make sure you get the preset you're looking for first thing. Otherwise, you're going to lose all your changes, assuming, of course, that you save and exit after making the changes. So as we scroll through some, you'll see, again, male and female options as we move through. Not only are we going to have the option for the presets and to change the look and the shape of the head, we're also going to be able to get into the eyes, mouth, hair, and so on as we move through the various selections. All right, let's scroll through the final couple here. All right, there you go. Male and female available. We're going to go back to the very first one and then move on to the head shape. Again, for those of you who really want to get into more detail in customizing your driver, you can see you've got several options available there. Same thing with the fullness. All right, then we'll move on to the complexion here. You're going to see any blemishes on the skin, as well as even if you'd like to put some makeup on your driver, you have the option to do that as well. Skin tone, of course. You can customize that as you see fit. We'll just go with the very top one for right now. And so here's where you would have your opportunity to exit and save. For right now, I'm simply going to click on cancel and we're going to move along. So very important whenever you try to exit out of this screen to make sure that you want to save any changes and that you have not made any inadvertent changes. I've done that several times in past games where I made some changes just testing some things out and ended up saving them when I did not want to. Now you get to the hair options. So crew cut, kind of hard to see a lot of these different options since you're looking at, in a lot of these cases, you're looking at the hat mostly. So the mullet style, of course, is going to give you the ability to see some of the hair through the bottom, but not a whole lot of choices here. Again, limited very much by the fact that you're wearing the hat, but you do have a few such as the ponytail, bob cut, and so on that will show up underneath the bottom of the hat. Of course, color options there. Same thing with our rainbow options at the very bottom if you want to get into even more detail. We're actually going to leave the bob cut on this guy for right now. We're just going to have a little fun with that. The beard, you've got several different options here as well as some nice sideburns there. We'll leave him at, let's see, what do we want to give this guy? Let's go with the mutton chops right now. And we'll leave, there you go. We'll give him a grayish beard on the side. Then we get into the eyebrows. Now this is generally much more detailed than I would ever need in customizing a driver, particularly when I'm not going to see while I'm driving the car. However, if that is what you're into, you are certainly going to have plenty of options to do so. Then we get into the eyes. What do you want the eyes to look like? You've got different shapes there. Not a huge difference there, but when we get into the fullness, that certainly is going to change the look around the eyes for your driver. Then you get into the eye color itself. You can see the color of the eye changes as we make adjustments there, moving the eyes around in or out, and then of course up or down. We'll leave our guy all the way down. Then we get into the nose options, fullness. Oh yeah, we're really messing this guy. This poor guy here has no shot with us in control right now. Let's see. Let's make it up a little bit higher. Yeah, this guy, he is going to hate our existence. Let's see what he looks like if we can get him to turn back around. Yeah, this guy is not going to like me by the time I am done. Let's move into the mouth. You got the shape options. You can see the fullness there just below. We'll go ahead and give him some nice full lips. Looks like maybe he's had some Botox a little bit. A few injections here and there before the racing season gets started. Got to be ready for all of those camera photo ops, as well as the selfies when we get to the track. All right, then we get the chin. Let's see, we want him to have, we'll go with a smaller chin. And then the longest length, yeah, I like that. Let's go with the longest length there. Oh yeah, this guy is going to be all set by the time we're done. All right, then the hat. We've got the standard hat, you've got flat bill, and then you got the relaxed. Relaxed is what I grew up with. It is definitely my favorite. Then you get the different styles. We got 3-color, inverted. Let's see, we got a front pattern, camouflage, of course. Got to have camouflage in there. Flames. Wouldn't be a NASCAR game without flames. Then you got fancy. I believe that's it. And then, of course, solid color, and then a regular style. And, of course, down below we see our 3-color options. You got your decal that's going to show up on the hat. And, again, several options here, most of which will look very familiar from past games, maybe a few different ones here and there. All right, we'll let the Pro League be the sponsor here on his. Then we throw some glasses on here. I feel like he needs some aviators, and we're going to give him some blue reflective aviators. Now we are ready. Yeah, this guy's almost set. So now for body shape, we're going to give him, let's give him this one, which I believe is like number 4, I think, in the list. And then volume. Let's go all the way to the right on the volume. So again, just tons of adjustability here. And I'm just going to have to make sure that I don't save any of this and overwrite what we started with. But it would just be very much like me to do just that. All right, let's go with the camo look. And again, you can see the basic colors there that you can swap up and move around to your heart's content. And let's see, what do we need here? Let's go. I don't know, I'm kind of liking this one, the Motorious. I kind of like that orange one. And let's move up a little bit. Durham Engines, that's what I use quite a bit in Heat 4, so we'll change that up a little bit for this guy while we're working on him. Let's give him Speed Digital, and we'll leave the same on that shoulder, and then on the very back, we'll go with Roush Yates and give him a nice rounded off look. So there's our guy. I think he's ready to race. This guy looks like he's ready to hit the track and run some serious lap times and even compete with Ricky Bobby maybe a little bit as we get going. So that'll do it for my driver. Now let's move over and take a look at painting some race cars. As we get into the My Cars section, the first thing you're going to realize is that I am not an artist. I am not good at designing paint schemes and assigning decals and all that sort of thing with the color matching. That is not my area of expertise, but I did want to throw a few paint schemes together, or at least my attempt at those paint schemes, just to give you an idea, if you're new to the series, at what kind of options are available within the game. So here on the very first tab, you have your series options that are available. Right now we're going to be in the Cup Series, and here in a little bit we'll take a look at Xfinity, trucks, and then finally the Dirt late model as well. But we'll get started off here in the Cup Series. Here you see the basic paint scheme we've got. I decided to take the Hunt Brothers Pizza and just sort of design a basic car look around that. Again, nothing too fancy here, but this is probably about the best that I'm going to be able to come up with. There are some oddities that I will point out here in the paint booth, some things that have been odd to me for the last few versions of the game now. And one of those is, you notice the number 13 on the car. It's in the bottom right-hand corner in the rear of the car, on the rear bumper. You also see it on the side of the car. And you notice that that is supposed to be white. But the lighting in the game, it just never works out to be white. It's very odd to me, and it's actually very frustrating when I'm trying to paint these things and nothing ever comes out the exact color that it shows up here when I'm designing. It just never looks like that on the car. So some frustration on my end from that kind of thing. But again, it can be explained away by lighting and some other effects on the car. But just keep that in mind as you're moving through and designing a paint scheme. So here I'm using a basic red as well as some white and some brighter green look on the stripes. Then we get into one of the most important changes, I believe, to come along in NASCAR Heat 5 versus NASCAR Heat 4. And the first thing is the number. Now, we've had, of course, the ability to customize numbers in Heat 4, but we did not have the ability to separate out the font from the number itself. So last year in Heat 4, you had different fonts available, but there were only, 3 or 4 different fonts available, and they were all as part of the number list. Now they're separated out, so we can choose a number, then we can choose a font, and we can change back and forth without having to go through this big long list of all the numbers and fonts together. So I've chosen the number 13, and you can see it was supposed to be in white, but unfortunately didn't work out that way. We've got some different fonts. We'll go back to the A font. So A, B, and C I remember from Heat 4. Then we get into some new ones, D, E, F, G, and then finally H. So we've got some very nice options added to the list so that you can, again, customize the car the way you see fit. So I'm going to go back to, let's see, let's go ahead and use, let's go back to D right here. Then you have, much like we saw in customizing our driver, you have a nice list of colors available. And then if that's not enough, you can get into shading different shades of different colors as well using the rainbow option. So let's go ahead and back out of that. And also another change to NASCAR Heat 5. Not only can you adjust the color of the number itself, but you can also adjust the shadow color on the number. So here you can see I'm using a very dark color, but you can also go in a very, very different direction if you see fit. So again, plenty of options to try to make your car stand out. Then you get into the material. You get gloss versus the matte finish. Some of the colors, of course, with the whites and stuff are not going to look a whole lot different with the matte versus the gloss, but you can see some different, particularly on the hood and on the roof. You can see some difference there. Again, giving you just more customization here in NASCAR Heat 5. And then finally, another change here at the bottom of the screen, and that is the rim color and the spoiler color. So we had a little bit of ability to adjust, particularly the rims in NASCAR Heat 4, but now you have an entire color palette at your disposal when choosing the color of the rim. Same thing with the spoiler. We can move this thing around and choose exactly the look that we're going for, things that were not available in Heat 4. Then we get over to the third and final tab, which is the decals. Well, who are our sponsors on this particular car? I already mentioned I've designed this car scheme around the Hunt Brothers Pizza logo, but then we've got some other sponsors on here as well. So plenty of sponsors available. Let's go ahead and we'll start at the very top and we'll work our way to the bottom. So of course you can always start out with no sponsor whatsoever. And then again, most of these sponsors are a carryover from NASCAR Heat 4, albeit a few additions have made their way into NASCAR Heat 5. Very much looking forward to when they can devote some time to revamping this area of the game. Even though I'm not big in making paint schemes, I do enjoy coming in and playing around and just seeing what I can create from time to time. So it'd be nice to have some more options here. Maybe the options to change the size, the orientation, the location of some of these on the car so we can move things around, change the color of some of these sponsorships so that we can make it work within the paint schemes that we're creating. So a lot of different options that I really wish we had the opportunity to use that are simply not available right now with a very basic setup here in the paint booth. So again, you can see there are plenty of options here, but like with the Mac tools, it'd be nice if we could change the color of that based on the color palette we get access to for some of the other options and make it fit what we're working with. Might be some issues there with the different sponsors that will keep that from happening, but if it's at all possible, it's something I would love to see, and I'm sure a lot of you would as well, particularly those of you who are much more serious about your paint schemes. All right, so as we get close to the bottom, Corvette parts and Richmond Raceway will round out our results. So that's going to take care of the Cup car. Let's move over real quickly and take a look at the other series. Moving on now to the Xfinity Series. Here on the Xfinity car, we're looking at largely identical options as far as customizing our car and the paint scheme. But we do have a little bit different style of car. Here, you can see I've tried to match up the South Point Hotel and Casino. Certainly not an amazing job, but it does give you an opportunity to see just a few of the differences in the look of the car. Of course, we've got rim color here. We do not have a spoiler. So again, not quite identical to the Cup options. And then once again, we have the same options. As far as I'm aware, the identical options to the Cup car as far as sponsorship. But as I mentioned before, sure would be nice if we could change the location, the size, orientation, color, all those things with a lot of these logos. It would really help out in working with the car and really making that paint scheme pop the way you want it to. All right, with the Xfinity car out of the way, let's now move on to the trucks. Here in the trucks, we're looking at the same options as what we saw previously on the Xfinity car. Once again, no option to paint the spoiler on the truck, but here I'm showing you just a little bit different color palette, a darker color here. I went with black. Sometimes I'll go with a very dark charcoal gray color, and then we brought in some white and the green stripes that we've seen before. A little bit different font on the number this time. Again, you've got several new options here that I think all look really good and can fit nicely into several different schemes. So you've got one of these, like this one reminds me quite a bit of the 43 from Richard Petty, just by the simple design of it. Really like the design of some of these new additions and hoping that they continue to expand on the number of fonts that are available within the game, and would actually love it if we could upload some additional fonts and add those to the game, but not going to hold my breath that that'll be available even in future editions of the game. So now that we've taken a look at all three of the NASCAR series, let's go look at something very different with the Dirt Late model. So here in the Dirt Late models, even though you have exactly the same paint schemes, and as we're talking here, I'll go ahead and scroll through some of these, starting with a base paint scheme, a single color scheme. Even though it's the same paint schemes and designs as we saw in the top three NASCAR series, it has a very different look and feel here in the Dirt model. At least it does for me anyway. The car itself, the body of how different it is to what we're used to seeing on the top three series with some of the flares in different areas and so on, just has a very different feel for me. Once again, you see the bright green as the base color for me, threw in some purple this time, as well as the traditional white as well. Once again, you see the number feel. The number is supposed to be white, but it looks anything but white here on the screen, and it really stays the same regardless of the orientation of the car as it spins around. Which brings me to another point that I would really love to see in the future of the game, and that is the ability to stop the rotation. Now, I know we can control it a little bit here with some of the options, but I would really just like to have the option to stop the rotation of the car. But as of now, that is not really a possibility. But you notice in the bottom left-hand corner, with the right stick, you do have some options available to you. Of course, me using the steering wheel becomes a little bit more difficult to control some of that, which is why I'm asking for an option to completely stop the rotation at any point in time. So here in just a second, we're going to see one paint scheme that you absolutely have to have on a race car, and that is the flames that we see pop up now. You have to have flames available, or are we even in a racing game if that's not the case? So there you have it. The same paint schemes that are available on the top three, but again, just a very different look and feel to it when you put it on a Dirt Late model. Of course, it could be because I'm a little bit biased toward the dirt cars. They are so much fun to drive, not only in this game, but if you've played the Tony Stewart sprint car game, tons of fun in that game as well. But again, I'm probably just a tad bit biased toward those cars overall. That's going to do it for today. Hope you enjoyed it, and looking forward to seeing all of your custom creations in NASCAR Heat 5.